Alright, hello again, because Camtasia keeps crashing and it's a piece of garbage. So I'm gonna just get straight to it. I'm making like a 4-part tutorial here on how to make an AK full weapon creation tutorial. AK-74 U. Um, so I've gathered all my reference images thanks to Decide MBF's gallery. And a fantastic collection of like a bajillion pictures here. And I'm just going to set up a reference plane, straight and simple, because I don't want this to crash again. I'm going to select my left viewport, and I'm going to hit Alt-B. Alt-B. I'm going to say Files. I'm going to pick my background image. And as you can see, that's wrong. So I'm going to do Alt-B again. I'm going to go to the aspect ratio thing here at the bottom and say match bitmap and hit lock zoom pan. So now that's right, and I'm going to disable the grid, and so now we have our reference image. Now I'm going to tell you that some of the basics of subdivision modeling here. And first I'm going to make a plane. I already have something started and it's gone pretty far, so I'm going to just tell you a bit of the basics here. And I'm gonna pause it, and I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna go back to my regular scene. So, subdivision modeling, the concept behind this is basically making a basic mesh and then dividing it so it's really high poly and it has a lot of detail, or it's very smooth, I should say. So it's not difficult, but I'll show you how to do it here. So then you just make a box with using the symmetry modifier that's relatively the same shape. Alright. So now we have a box that's the same shape as the lower part of the receiver on this gun. Right? So now what we normally do to make it all high poly like is to do turbo smooth. Now obviously that's not right, and it just turns into this blob. And to fix that, what we need to do is we need to add support edges to make sure that it doesn't collapse in on itself. So to do this, I'm going to select the edge ring. An edge ring is horizontal, so it's like this. Get rid of the grid. An edge ring is like this. An edge loop is what I'm going to make. So here I just inserted 2 edge loops, and I'm going to use pinch to slide them across. I'm going to add another edge loop, another set of edge loops, and I'm going to do it again. Okay, so now we have a subdivided box, basically. I'm going to turn up the subdivisions so it looks a bit nicer. Alright, so now you can see we have all these smooth, nice, highlighted edges. Really nice. I have the iterations here up to 3, because if I turn them down, then it starts to get it starts to be less smooth. The way to get around that is by adding more geometry to your, just more loops into your mesh. So here I'm just gonna add 5 extra loops just to show you how that works. Yeah. Okay, so now see it's at a lower, it's at a much lower subdivision level, but it still looks pretty smooth. And if I turn that up a little bit, then it still looks nice. Isoline display is a cool thing that it only shows the original geometry. It doesn't show all the subdivided geometry. So if I uncheck it, you can see how much more geometry there is. Like this is the actual subdivision geometry, the subdivided geometry. So it's got all the added loops and whatever to make it smooth. But if I do isoline, then it's just the original, but it still looks smooth. You can see the smooth result is the same, but on the wireframe, it looks exactly the same. So I'm going to add a little bit of detail here using floating geometry. Now what's floating geometry? Well, basically it's just geometry that's floating above the surface. So it's not built into the main mesh. So here I'm going to add this, which is a cylinder. Now it's like a screw type thing, I don't know, a rivet. And I'm gonna go put that there. So this is some floating geometry. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna turbo it. I'm just gonna quickly do this because I actually have all this done already. And so here we have some circular bits. I'm gonna turn the sides down to an even number. Now this can be all floating because it's not going to be modeled in on the low poly. Just remember the low poly should never be an afterthought because that's what we're going to be baking everything down to. I'm gonna cap it. Cap this fool. Ugh, it's being dumb. I honestly don't know why it does that sometimes. Oh, it's because I have stuff selected, that's why. I don't like Mac sometimes. I'm just not having a good day right now. Alright, whatever. Just inset to get some support. And I'm gonna select this edge loop. And I'm gonna do hard chamfer to make it solid. That's a script in that comes with the mesh tools or whatever you call it. CS poly cell tools, and I don't know. I'll post the link. They're really good. So I'm gonna turbo that. I'm gonna isoline. It's not the best result ever, but whatever. Okay, so now we got a little bit of floating, some inset geometry. Now we can do this because the renderer only sees it like oh wow, whoops. It's only seeing it like straight on. So this is how max or x normal or whatever will see all the detail. It won't see it like this. Basically, it'll only read it like just perfectly straight. It won't see it as 3D. So that's why you can have this all floating. I'm gonna go model some more, and I'll come back and show you how to do more stuff. Alright, so I'm starting again here. This is what I originally had started before Camtasia decided to crash. You know, there's quite a bit of detail added here, just using floating stuff. Again, these are all floating above the surface, so you can just go see that right here. They're not actually built in. These top bits were originally going to be done with splines, but I decided against that. So here's an example about using splines with subdivision modeling, because it's a really important technique to learn, and it can be extremely helpful. So what I've got here is I've got spline selected. As you can see, it's kind of wavy, it's kind of curvy, whatever. And I got my model here that I want to go and put along the spline. So hold on, let me add a little bit more detail into this so you can see a bit more of an example. So you can notice that this geometry has a lot of segments in it. This is needed so that it can curve properly. I'm going to turbo smooth it so that there's even more segments, and just because that would look nicer, and because that's how it would be subdivided. Now I'm going to add a path deform world space modifier. You can find this in the modifiers list. I have it on a toolbar, but I'm going to just do it from the menu. It's path deform WSM. Now what you need to do is you need to pick the path. So press pick path and pick the path. Alright, now say move to path. Okay, so now you can see it's moved to path, but it's not looking right. So now we need to change the axis. So I'm going to change it to X, and that seems to look about right. Now I'm going to say stretch, and you can see it stretches along the path. Now that's pretty cool, and so I can do %, and it'll move it along the path. So now if I just do stretch, then it follows the path pretty well. So now if I turn off edges, then we can see it curves along the path. So if I made, for example, an object and it needed some surface detail to curve around, so let me make an example really quickly. Alright, so now I've got a shape here, and I'm going to turbo smooth it so we get some little detail in there. Or loops, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just an example. So now I'm going to make a shape from selection. So now I'm going to, instead of pick the other path, so right here, and I don't know, whoa, that's weird. Move to path. Alright, so now let's move the path. And I'm going to move it, I need to move the spline out. There we go. I'm going to stretch it down. And so now we have some floating, oops, I need to rotate it. Use the rotation tool, or rotation dialog, whatever. And so now we have some floating geometry right kind of on here.